Hi, and thanks for joining me today. So, in my previous video, I mentioned that I sort of splurged a bit on quite a few We Are Memory Keepers products because Joann's, I think they are still currently marked down, but they have a 60% price drop on quite a few things, and among them were some punch boards that were on sale, and the fun thing that came today, which this video isn't about, but I did treat myself to their foil quill pens, and this is gonna be a total game changer because I have a laser printer, I have a laminator, and that's how I've been foiling with that and adhesive, for example, but I don't have like a foil machine. I know Spellbinders machines have one, the Gemini machines have one, but these are super easy to use. They are just pens, and you can just, this is my own handwriting, that I just wrote out, normal speed and everything, nothing fancy, and yeah, it's so easy to work with. And as you can see, you can foil onto vellum, you can foil onto laminated sheets, and a lot of fun. So if there's any interest in seeing me do a video on that, I can definitely do that. I probably will at some point, but not just yet. And this is just a work in progress little notebook that I'm working on for myself. But this video is going to be about the tab punch board, and I got this because I have the intention of making some notebooks like the one that you just saw, maybe some planners or journals, things like that, and I thought they would be fun gifts for family and friends, and so I got this for that reason. And I know there are a lot of videos out there on how to use this, so I won't necessarily focus on the basics, but rather just how you can place tabs wherever you want without having to do any math or any measuring. And it's not that I shy away from math or measuring. I actually have my undergraduate degree is in mathematics, so I'm not scared to do math. It's just that when I'm crafting, it's kind of nice just to be in that creative space and not pull out a calculator or a ruler or anything like that. And also, there are times when I really like to be precise, and then there are times when this is handmade. I kind of don't feel like I need to be like exactly centered or exactly evenly spaced. However, I will show the common method I've seen for how to achieve that if you want that level of precision. But the first method I'll show is how to just put a tab anywhere you want and kind of get it pretty close to perfectly spaced by just kind of eyeballing things. So here's how I'll start. You want to decide what size tab you want for your project. And what I generally do is just do this the one time and then keep these little templates with my board here so that I can reference them later. And I'll generally just use a scrap piece of paper. How you would normally make a tab is you put this stopper in and push your piece of paper or cardstock right up against it and flush against the top. You punch, you pull this out, and then whatever size tab you want, you have 3 choices that they've delineated for you, but obviously you could put the other end of this tab wherever you like. However, if you want to use one of their markings, they've given you a small, a medium, and a large. And my next notebook project is going to be a 5x7 notebook, and I think the medium tabs are going to be what I want. So I'm going to line this edge up with the kind of grooves for the medium line, and then punch. So now I have a little template and I know, how large my tab is. So, and this, by the way, is how you would get a tab on your leftmost divider. So I've already cut 4 sheets of, this is just pattern paper. It's pretty lightweight because I think, not 100% sure yet, I don't know what papers I'm going to use, and I don't know the theme or anything. This is just scrap paper that I have, but I'm thinking I might actually laminate this afterwards because it's lightweight, and I do want my dividers to be pretty sturdy. And you probably want to choose an order, so I might do something like, I don't want the 2 polka dots together, and I don't want the 2 blues together, so I think I might do something like that. Okay, so for the purposes of this particular journal, it's going to be an annual journal or notebook, and so I want my dividers to actually divide the calendar year into quarters, so that's why I've made 4 of these sheets. And then the other thing is this is going to be going into a journal where my pages are 5x7, but I do want my tab to extend a little bit beyond my pages so that it's easy to see, easy to grab. So let me pull this out again. These are already punched and everything. So this is actually 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is just for me, so I was making really efficient use of my copy paper. So I just cut an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet of paper in quarters. So this is an A2 size, and you see how the tab extends just a little bit past my papers. That's just 1/2 inch. So that's what I've added to the 5-inch width of my paper here. So this paper is actually 5 1/2 by 7 inches tall. So, and I want my tabs to go down the side of the page here. So what I'm going to do is for the first tab, it's not going to be any different than how you would normally do it. So just like how I made my little template here, put my stopper in, and if you don't want to use a stopper, there is a groove line there that you can line it up. But I like having the stopper because then you can really like just push against it, and it's really easy to line up, and it won't slip or anything. So we're making a medium size, so I'm gonna flip it over to the back, line this edge up with the medium line, and then I'm gonna punch that, and then we want to trim off the excess here, and this punch board does come with a little trimmer. So you want to lift up this little guide bar here, because this actually has a track and then it has a groove. So the track is where you want to put the circular plastic end, and then your blade will actually run inside that groove, and you just want to push and you can turn this to whatever, however it's most comfortable for you to slide this, but I suggest starting close to your tab and then pulling away. That way you don't have to worry about accidentally kind of going too far and cutting into your tab. And then my other suggestion is there is a little bit of play, so I would try to push the blade towards this bar here, and then consistently push down and away from you, because there is that little bit of play. So I don't know if you can hear that, but Can you hear and see that I can actually wobble this? So you could kind of wobble your cut line a little bit. It's very possible to do, probably not very perceptible at all, even if you did. But if you're trying to get a little bit straighter of a line, push away a little bit, not hard, just push away a little bit, and then run it down that track. So we have our first tab. So that's pretty standard for how you would make a normal little tab, and there is a corner rounder, so let's use that. Instead of using the side tabs set of holes here, you would use the corner rounder set of holes, and you would put your little stopper right there. Slide this in, and punch. And there we have a nice rounded corner. So that's pretty easy peasy. To get your last tab, really easy to do. You would just do the exact same thing, but starting from the back. And this is why I chose paper that's single-sided, so that you can tell when I'm working on the back of a piece of paper and when I'm working on the front of a piece of paper. So we want our tab to, this is going to be our last divider, and we want the last divider to have the tab at the end here. So what I'm going to do is, starting on the back, because here's the thing, our first tab, if I flip that to the back of that looks like what we would need for our back tab. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, except I'm going to start with the back side of the paper. And if you're working with double-sided paper, of course, it may not be exactly as you intend, but you could still use that tab. It just might not be the design you were going for. So I moved this. I forgot to mention, I did move it to the first set of holes so that it's in the side tabs set of holes there. And then flipping to the front side now, I'm gonna line this up with the medium because that's the size we're making. I'm gonna punch, and now I am going to cut off the excess. So I'm gonna lay this down. It's a little bit easier for me to push away from me. So, and in fact, it's easier for me to hold it this way. So I'm gonna hold my paper, put the circle into the track, the blade starting on the tab end, and I'm just gonna, when I glide it, I'm gonna just gently try to keep the plastic circle here running along the left edge of the track. So easy peasy. And now we have our last tab. So so that's easy, and that's gonna be, the same regardless of whatever method you use for determining the spacing for now the inside tabs. So here's how I figure out and put tabs essentially wherever I want. I know that I want to fit 2 more tabs in here. I know I want it to be a medium-sized tab. Oh look, so this actually is even more helpful. When I made my template, that was actually 2 pieces of cardstock, which helps because look what we can do here. So I can actually line up these 2 pieces and get sort of a sense for exactly, how much overlap I want and where, how and where I might want my tabs to be spaced. So I think that probably looks pretty good. I'm not too worried about it being perfect. All I'm doing is just, looking between my first and my last tab, where do I want the two tabs that go in the middle, where do I want them to line up? And, how much do I want them to overlap each other and whatnot? So once I have that figured out, I'm just going to hold on to my template. I'm going to hold on to the piece that I want to punch. And all I'm going to do is move everything else aside. This is a medium size, right? So holding onto your template, holding onto your paper, just slide this in and then line up your edge here with the size tab that you're trying to punch. And of course, your paper's kind of blocking it. So here again, it's sort of, by eye, just kind of eyeball it, get it in there, and then punch. Flip this over, line it up to the size that you want, and punch. And then we get this under our trimmer here, and trim that part off. Slide it down, make sure it's nice and flush, trim that part off. Okay, so there you have it. We've got our second tab. And there's how that looks. 1, 2. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to put my third tab piece of paper in. This is what I'm going to cut my third tab from. Or sorry, my final tab. But third in order. Grab my little template and then just kind of figure out, okay, where do I want it? I think there's pretty good. And so I'm just going to hold on to just the paper I want to punch and my template. So holding on to both of these, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So just slide it in, kind of line it up. Of course, this is by eye. But you know what? You're not a machine. It's handmade, and I always feel like part of the charm of handmade is that it's not perfect. And it has your own personal touch to it. It's got your own take on it, and so I don't mind it being a little bit off. So trimming that. Trimming that. All right. So third tab in our sequence. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did round the corners on that first one, but I didn't round the corners on my other ones, but you get the gist. So I feel like that's just really, I know this is probably not perfect if you were to measure it out, but it looks pretty darn good, right? Like for eyeballing and not measuring, not pulling out a ruler, not pulling out a calculator. And how easy is that? You just need to keep your template. And maybe what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just label this and say that this is my medium tab, so that the next time I need to make some file folders, then I'll already have this template ready to go. So that is one method of doing this. If you are working on something where being really, really exact and being really, really precise is important to you, then here is a very common method that I've seen and I've tried and it works and I like it. So just for completeness sake, I'll go ahead and show you how to do it, but this is not something I figured out on my own. So I'm not going to take credit for this idea. But that said, I have seen so many people do it. I also can't point you to the person who originally came up with it. So So sorry, I can't give credit where credit is due either. Okay, so remember I mentioned that when I punched that template, it happened to be 2 pieces of paper. Well, that turns out to be handy because what I'll do with the second one, this was my medium. You can do this for all the sizes, but I'll just show you for the medium size. Punch out a whatever size tab you'd like. Go ahead and then fold that in half to find the halfway point. And then it's not really critical to to burnish this, but it gives you a really crisp line. So that's why I'm doing it. Okay, then all you need to do is, this is medium, so line up your curvy edge here with the medium, and then I just put a little piece of washi tape at the end of my cardstock, which is folded in half. So that is actually marking the halfway point of a medium-sized tab. And if you wanted, you could take a permanent marker, give yourself a little tick mark. You could do tick marks for the other sizes as well. It just so happens that small happens to line up with the edge of your punch here. And large, the reason why I haven't marked out the large is because I just don't think I'll make tabs that are going to be wider than the medium. So I just figure for my personal use, I probably wouldn't use that size all that often. So I haven't bothered, but definitely you can if you foresee yourself using that size. Okay, so now that we know where that is, what we can do is, let's see. I didn't pull out extra paper for this, but let me cut down this. Okay, this is going to be an interesting experiment. So here's what I'll do. I cut this down to the same size as where these started. What I'm going to do is I'm actually using this other method for very precise positioning. I'm going to make the second tab in this series, and we're going to see how close my eyeballing is to exact measuring. I'm a little bit nervous and scared because I've actually never done this comparison. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I am going to pull out my T-ruler. This is 7 inches in height here, the kind of the length of our paper. So I am going to find the halfway point. Let's do it that way, yeah. There's so many ways that you can do this, but basically I'm going to find the halfway point. That's 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. And then I'm going to find the halfway point between the edge and 3.5. So that's going to be 1 3/4. Okay, so basically I've divided my this first top half here by oh wait, I'm probably doing this on, I didn't want to work off of the front, but I guess well, I'll do it from the back then. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mark it from down here too. So line up my T-ruler, and I'm gonna find the halfway point between the 3.5 and my 7-inch line. So it's 1 3/4 in. Okay, so now the length of my piece of paper is divided into 4 sections, and that's essentially where our tabs are going to reside. So if I'm trying to find, or I'm trying to do my second tab here. I'm working on the back side, so my second tab is actually going to be here. I just need to find the halfway point of this section. So each of these sections is 1 3/4, and so half of 1 3/4 is going to be, let's see, here's how I do halvesies without having to really pull out a calculator. What you can do is you go, half an inch in this way, half an inch up, go quarter inch, and then 1/8. All right, that's my halfway point. That's the middle of this section. That's sort of how I like to do, like if I can't easily divide something by 2, then what I'll do is just from the 2 ends, I'll just kind of go towards the center in the same increment on both sides. So this was the space that I'm working within here. So what I did was from the top, I went in half an inch. From the bottom, I went in half an inch. And then from there, another quarter of an inch and another quarter of an inch. And then I found the middle that way. So that's just another way of finding the middle if you don't want to do math, but you're comfortable with measuring. Okay, so now we know the halfway point. So we can now line up the halfway point with the center line of what we marked out on our board. In my case, that's the left edge of my washi tape here. So here we go. Punch. And then it's the same. Line this up with your medium, whatever size tab you're making. Punch. Then go ahead and trim. So okay, here is our measured and perfectly aligned using actual measurements and everything. So here's the scary part. How close was my eyeballing? So, oh my gosh, check that out. No joke. I'm actually really surprised. I'm off a little bit. See that little edge right there? I am off a little bit, but really, that's like hairline. That's not that much off and not perceptible. Especially, and you know why I'm usually fairly OCD about things like this, but the reason why for this sort of stuff I'm not worried at all is because once you have this in your journal, no one's gonna see it like this. There's gonna be pages in between here, and so you're not gonna really, like, here's an example. You're not gonna really, I mean, you'll notice a little bit maybe, but there's gonna be other stuff, and just depending on how you decorate things, it's hardly gonna be noticeable, I think. But I'm kind of flabbergasted that I got so close. I'm actually really proud of myself. I'm really proud of myself, guys. Okay, so I just thought that I would share that because I know for me, I'm not, scared to do the math. I'm comfortable with the ruler and measurements and stuff like that. It's not so much that, no math, no measuring is like something that I'm really trying to strive for, or avoid, but it's just one of those things where when I'm crafting, if I can just do and I can just create and not have to like stress out about a ruler or doing math or working stuff out on a scratch sheet of paper, then I feel like it just keeps me in the flow of being creative, and then I can just have fun. I don't have to kind of dread anytime I want to pull this out and, make a journal, that I'm going to have to, figure out how to align things and measure things up. So that is sort of my little tip. I know I went through that kind of quickly, but I hope that that made sense, and that you find that this is a method that works for you. If you're like me and you don't want to, bring out a ruler or do math every time, you sit down to make a set of dividers. So thanks so much for joining me. And if you found this video interesting or helpful, please consider liking, commenting, or sharing. And also be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when I do have new videos that come out, you'll get a notification and you'll see all of the crafty goodness that I'm up to. So until my next video, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Thanks. Bye.